Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Mhm.
Today, well, we're getting into something that it almost sounds like a paradox, really. But once you kind of get it, it could totally change how you see things, how you interact with your reality. I mean, have you ever felt stuck? Like you're just pushing and pushing, constantly struggling to get what you want,
Yeah.
and you just end up feeling, I don't know, drained, maybe even frustrated or kind of disappointed. Well, what if, and this is the really interesting part, what if the real secret to getting what you desire, like effortlessly,
Mm.
was actually to, well, do nothing? Sounds crazy, right? Flies right in the face of everything we're usually taught.
It really does. It challenges that whole hustle culture, that idea that we have to make everything happen through sheer force of will. But the materials we've been digging into for this deep dive, they suggest a totally different path, radically different, actually. It's an approach that's rooted fundamentally in your internal state and who you are, your identity, rather than just strenuous external effort.
Okay.
So our mission today, basically, is to unpack this idea, really explore the nuances, and see how this shift in perspective, this inner shift, can lead to manifesting things in your outer world, but without all that effort.
Effortless manifestation.
Now, get ready for some genuine aha moments, I think, because this isn't just abstract theory. It feels more like a blueprint for living in, well, harmony and flow.
Okay, so let's tackle this head on. This concept, doing nothing, it's provocative, but we need to be super clear, right? We're not talking about laziness here or just, giving up and sitting on the couch.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's the first hurdle, the most common misunderstanding. Our sources are really clear on this. Doing nothing isn't about physical inaction. Not at all. It's about releasing control. It's about stopping the interference, letting go of trying to micromanage the natural flow of things.
Okay, stopping the interference.
Yeah. One of the texts puts it nicely. You don't force it to happen. It simply happens naturally, in flow. So it means letting go of that obsession with the how and the when. How is this going to work out? When will I get it?
That's the tough part for most people, I think. The how.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
about acknowledging that there's maybe a higher intelligence or a deeper mechanism, let's say, that's orchestrating things.
Yeah.
And it does it way more efficiently, more elegantly than our conscious striving mind ever could.
So it's an inner stance, a mental posture of trust, almost.
Exactly. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming deeply aware and trusting this flow that operates beyond our forced efforts.
Okay, but letting go of control over the how and when, that feels like swimming upstream for a lot of us. We're so conditioned to believe we have to figure it all out, make it happen. How do we start to even grasp this?
Well, that conditioning is exactly what needs addressing. And actually, our materials use this really fascinating cultural analogy. It helps make it more tangible. It comes from a discussion about traditional Japanese clothing, the kimono.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So unlike a lot of Western clothes that are cut and sewn to fit the body very precisely, sometimes even, restricting it, the kimono is made from simple rectangular pieces of cloth. And it's just allowed to hang, to fall in its own natural fold.
It respects the fabric itself.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
honors the nature of the fabric, its geometry. There's an inherent dignity in that, an allowance, not forcing it into a shape it wasn't meant to be.
Whereas Western clothing often molds the fabric to us or forces us into a shape.
Right. And the suggestion is that this might reflect a kind of inner restlessness, a need to conform, to fit ourselves into something, maybe because we don't quite trust our natural form or state.
That's a really powerful visual, clothing as a metaphor for how we approach life itself.
It is, and it goes even deeper. The sources point out something quite specific. Wearing a kimono makes it impossible to run after a bus.
Huh. Okay.
You literally have to walk with a more measured, what they call a dignified step.
So it forces you to slow down.
Precisely. It's a potent metaphor for slowing down the pace of life, for choosing to maybe wander instead of always rushing. It suggests that a life lived with this kind of natural dignity, this grace, it doesn't require that constant frantic striving. It comes from a state of presence, of acceptance, allowing life to unfold rather than chasing it down.
When you're not rushing, you're flowing with time, not fighting against it.
You got it. And this brings up another really intriguing, maybe even slightly uncomfortable point from the materials. The idea that discomfort, or maybe more accurately, the absence of pressure, can sometimes make us feel unreal, like we don't truly exist.
That's weirdly counterintuitive, isn't it? We usually seek comfort, ease. Why would the lack of pressure make us feel less real?
It's a fascinating cultural observation, the sources suggest. They talk about how people in Western culture might feel slightly guilty wearing something loose like a bathrobe
Guilty. Why guilty?
because they feel unrestricted. And apparently, that feeling of being totally unrestricted, uncontained, can create this subtle suspicion that you don't truly exist.
Yeah.
Like you're not properly here.
As if we need the tightness, the pressure, to feel grounded.
That seems to be the implication. Things like tight clothes or heavy boots, wide belts, they provide constant physical sensation, pressure on the skin. And that pressure makes us feel here, solid, real, even if it's uncomfortable.
Wow.
And the materials argue this is a deeply mistaken belief, that it could even lead to this underlying deep sense of guilt about our existence, like we don't really belong unless we're contained or striving.
That's heavy. A guilt about just being.
Yeah. In stark contrast, the suggestion is to allow the cloth to hang, to respect its nature, just like we should respect our own nature. And that paradoxically leads to a natural dignity, an effortless sense of belonging. It's about shedding those external self-imposed pressures and realizing our inherent state is one of ease and grace.
So, all of this, the kimono, the slowing down, releasing the need for external pressure, it all circles back to this core idea of allowing, surrendering, detaching from the how and when. Detachment feels like the absolute key here.
It really is. Detachment is crucial for freedom. But, and this is a really critical nuance, our materials, stress detachment doesn't mean giving up on your desire.
Oh, okay. That's important.
Hugely important. You must continue to assume your desire as fulfilled in your mind. You live from that state internally.
So it's an inner state, not abandoning the goal.
Exactly. It's an internal process of already being or having it. You detach from how it will happen, when it will happen, the specific process, but you hold firm to the inner knowing, the feeling of the desire is already complete within you.
You let go of the need to control the unfolding, but not the destination itself in your consciousness.
Perfectly put. One text clarifies you have to release the voice that tries to question how and when, just let it go, accept it will happen. And when you do that, apparently a blissful state will encompass you.
Because you're not fighting reality anymore. You're trusting.
You're trusting. It's trust, not apathy. That's the core distinction.
That is a powerful clarification. It's not about giving up on dreams, it's giving up the struggle. Which brings us neatly to the next big piece in these materials. If we're not doing the heavy lifting, the forcing and striving, then who or what is? This introduces the idea of the old man versus the true self.
Exactly. And understanding this distinction is fundamental. The old man, or sometimes called the former self, represents that illusory identity, the limited thinker, the part of us that identifies with lack, with conflict, with all the perceived limitations.
The part that's always worried, maybe? Always calculating?
Yeah, precisely. This old man operates from the belief that it needs to control everything, manipulate circumstances externally in order to finally feel fulfilled, which, our sources state very clearly, is an illusion. It's this illusory thinking that keeps us stuck in that cycle of struggle and dissatisfaction, always believing we need something else out there to be complete or happy.
So the breakthrough isn't trying to fix or battle this old man. It's realizing it's not actually us and just not identifying with it. That feels very different from typical self-help.
It's a profound shift, isn't it? Instead of fighting, it's about recognition and non-identification. Our materials actually reference a biblical passage, Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Okay.
And the interpretation here isn't about waging war on your negative thoughts or trying to forcibly change that old man identity. It's simply about not conforming to its patterns, not identifying with those thoughts.
So when a thought comes up, I can't do this or this is too hard, you just don't claim it as your own.
Exactly. Those thoughts that suggest lack or limitation or disharmony, they appear and disappear. They arise from, as the sources put it, conditions stored in the subconscious. You don't actually need to do anything about them other than to abandon previous conversations, which just means stop identifying with them. Stop giving them your power, your belief.
Wow. That feels incredibly freeing, like putting down a heavy weight you didn't even realize you were carrying.
It is liberating.
Yeah.
Because you realize you're not constantly in a battle to change a self that isn't even fundamentally real. It's just a temporary pattern, like clouds passing.
Okay. But understanding this, letting go of the old man, it leads to an even more radical idea mentioned in the sources. The premise that we already have what we desire. Now that one, that can feel really hard to swallow. It sounds too good to be true. Our whole lives we're basically trained to chase what we don't have.
It absolutely turns conventional wisdom on its head, but the materials are adamant. I am fulfilled is the fundamental truth of your being. Existence is fulfillment.
Existence is fulfillment, not existence leads to fulfillment if you do X, Y, and Z.
Exactly. And this reframes desire completely. Desire isn't seen as a sign that you're lacking something. Quite the opposite. Desire indicates fulfillment.
How does desire indicate fulfillment? That seems contradictory.
Think of it this way. The desire arises because the fulfillment already exists as a potential, as a reality, within the infinite field of consciousness that you are. The desire is the mechanism by which that pre-existing reality makes itself known to your conscious awareness. So it transforms desire from this state of desperate searching, of neediness, into a recognition, an inner acknowledgement of what already is within you.
Like the desire is a signal pointing to something already present in your potential.
Precisely. It's an inner calling, not an outer lack. A recognition, not a request.
So desire isn't the problem. It's maybe our interpretation of it, our identification with the feeling of lack that often comes with the desire.
That's a great way to put it. The desire itself is pure signal. It's the old man identity that attaches stories of lack and struggle to it.
Okay, but if this fulfillment is already our true state, how do we feel it? How do we experience it right now, in this moment, not just as a nice idea? How does it become palpable?
Yeah, great question. Because it's not meant to be just an abstract concept. The sources emphasize it's a tangible experience. They state things like, whatever you desire, I am. I am what I desire to be. I have what I desire. And this isn't just an affirmation to repeat. It's an invitation to access a feeling, a felt sense, described often as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment.
The core states of being.
Exactly. And key is, you can access this state right now. You don't need to wait for any external conditions to change or align first. There's a fun analogy used sometimes from the old Super Mario Brothers game.
Oh, yeah.
When he gets the star, he's in flow. Remember that. Invincibility, effortless movement, that upbeat music, pure joy.
Total flow state, untouchable.
Right. That experience, that immediate, spontaneous bliss and flow that is accessible to you at any moment. It doesn't depend on anything outside of you.
So we don't need to wait for the circumstances to give us the star?
No. We access the star internally by doing nothing, meaning by stopping the interference, releasing the limitations, and simply recognizing that we already exist as this love, happiness, peace, fulfillment.
It's realizing these qualities aren't things to get. They're our fundamental nature.
That's the core realization. They are already what you are. It shifts everything from seeking outside to recognizing within.
Okay, building on that then, we've talked about this true self. Let's dive deeper into what it means to say we are pure consciousness and perfection. That's a huge claim, especially when, life feels messy and imperfect most of the time.
It is a grand statement, isn't it? And it comes right to the core philosophy. Our materials explain it like this. You are pure consciousness. Full stop. It's only the persona in the mind, that old man we talked about, that can condition consciousness to suggest it is not perfect as it is now.
So the imperfection isn't in the consciousness itself, but in the conditions or beliefs we overlay onto it.
Precisely. Your fundamental essence is described as untainted. It is perfect love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, whole, complete, and infinitely intelligent. This points to an identity that completely transcends any mental constructs or physical limitations you might perceive about yourself.
It's like the screen is perfect, even if the movie playing on it seems flawed.
That's a good analogy. The screen remains pure. To emphasize this, one source even draws on Genesis 1:3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Oh.
And in the context of these teachings, that light is interpreted as pure consciousness. Our essence is seen as divine, creative.
The power of I am.
Exactly. I am is presented as the fundamental creative power. And no matter what mask you wear, what temporary role you play in life, that divine nature never changes. Just as the analogy goes, God cannot cease to be God. You, as an expression of that same consciousness, never truly lose your divine, perfect nature. Perceived imperfection is just a temporary overlay, a mistaken identity.
Okay, so those nagging feelings of not good enough or I lack this, they're just static. Interference, not the actual signal.
Beautifully put. They're temporary conditions, not the truth of who you are. But that leads to the big question you raised. If we are inherently perfect, why does our reality, the world we experience, often seem so chaotic, so lacking, so far from perfect? Where's the disconnect?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
It really is, and the answer provided by these sources is just as radical as the premise. They teach that reality is perfect, right now, as it is.
Wait, reality's perfect, even with all the problems we see?
Yes, the disharmony, the problems, the lack we perceive, that's the illusion. It's generated by those conditions imposed upon consciousness we just talked about.
So the problems aren't objectively real?
According to this perspective, no. The fundamental truth is harmony is reality. The problems you see out there are not independent objective facts. They are projections of your own internal landscape, your beliefs, your conditions.
Projections, like a movie projector again.
Exactly. And what are these conditions? They're defined as beliefs of limitation, dichotomous beliefs, this versus that. Thinking in terms of separation, us versus them, good versus bad, this is better than that. This kind of thinking fundamentally distorts your perception of a reality that, in its essence, is whole and harmonious.
So our judging mind creates the divisions that appear as problems.
That's the idea. And the solution isn't to fix the external problems, but to purify the mind by releasing these conditions, these judgments, these limiting beliefs. When you do that, the illusions disappear. The process isn't about creating a perfect reality. It's about accepting the perfection that's already here by removing the filters that prevent you from seeing it.
It's like we're watching this amazing, intricate play, what some materials call God's game, and we keep jumping on stage trying to rewrite the script based on our limited understanding, imposing our own conditions, and that just messes up the natural flow.
That's a fantastic way to visualize it. We interfere with the inherent harmony by imposing our conditions. When we let go of those conditions, reality naturally reveals itself as an experience of love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment.
So it challenges us to really question what we perceive as problems. Are they facts out there, or are they interpretations in here?
Precisely. And this leads to a profound statement about responsibility. If I am the cause of my experience, and I experience thinking, then I am the cause of thinking.
Whoa. Okay. I am the cause of my thinking.
Yeah. It implies this radical ownership. What you perceive externally is ultimately a reflection of your internal state, your beliefs, your thinking. You're not just experiencing a reality. You are, in a very real sense, the source of your experienced reality. You're the projector, not just watching the screen.
That's huge. A little intimidating maybe, but also incredibly empowering if it's true. Because it means change starts within.
It places the power squarely back in your hands, or rather, in your state of being.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we achieve this purification of the mind? How do we actually shift identity from the old man to this true self? What are the practical steps, especially if the core principle is doing nothing?
Right. It seems like a paradox again, doesn't it? How do you do non-doing? The key is, it's not about doing in the sense of effort or striving. It's not about trying to build a new identity based on positive conditions. It's about recognizing that you already transcend all those limiting beliefs and conditions.
So we don't change our identity. We recognize our true one that's already there.
Exactly. We do nothing to change it. We simply recognize it. The process itself is one of release and allowance. It involves, as the sources describe, releasing identification in the moment, just letting things be, allowing thoughts to be, allowing emotions to be, allowing appearances to be, as you relax into that still presence of I am.
Relaxing into I am, not fighting, not resisting.
Yes. This attitude of non-identification, of relaxed allowance, is what releases the flow restrictor in consciousness.
Okay, flow restrictor. That term came up before. Can you unpack that a bit more? What is it, and how does this letting go release it?
Imagine your true nature, that pure consciousness, is like a huge, powerful river of creative energy, of well-being, of perfect manifestation, just flowing effortlessly.
Got it.
Now, the flow restrictor is like a dam, or maybe a series of smaller blockages in that river. What are those blockages? They're your limiting beliefs, your identification with the old man, your fears, your judgments, those previous conversations about lack and limitation.
The conditions we impose.
Exactly. When you're constantly fighting your thoughts, worrying about the future, trying to force outcomes, resisting you're essentially reinforcing those dams. You're blocking the natural, powerful flow of your own being into your experience.
So how does releasing identification remove the dam?
By releasing identification in the moment, by allowing thoughts and feelings and appearances to just be without latching onto them as me or truth, you stop feeding energy into those blockages. You stop reinforcing the dam. You're not trying to actively dismantle the dam piece by piece through effort. You're just getting out of the river's way. You stop contributing to the blockage. And the natural power of the river, the flow itself, starts to dissolve those restrictions.
So it's less about demolition and more about just stopping the construction.
That's a great way to think about it. You stop building the dam of limitation. And this allows that inherent creative energy, that perfection, to flow much more freely, creating a reality that naturally aligns with your true harmonious nature. It's subtractive, not additive.
Okay. It's about removing interference. And this sounds like where the concept of transmutation fits in, like a kind of inner alchemy.
Precisely. Transmutation is a key practical aspect of this. It's about transforming energy that feels negative, like anxiety, fear, frustration, by changing the filter through which you perceive it.
Changing the filter.
So instead of seeing anxiety as bad or wrong or something to get rid of, you recognize it simply as energy, raw energy, life force. Maybe it's even excitement or anticipation that's being interpreted through a filter of fear or doubt.
So you don't fight the energy, you redefine it.
Exactly. You change your relationship to it. A personal example shared in the materials involved feeling intense anxiety before giving speed reading workshops. Instead of fighting the anxiety, the person reframed it. They realized the underlying energy was actually enthusiasm, passion, the desire to share something they loved. By shifting the interpretation, the experience of that energy transformed from debilitating anxiety into productive excitement.
Wow. Same energy, different experience based on the meaning given to it.
Yes, and this process helps purify the subconscious of those restrictive beliefs that label certain energies as bad. You're not eliminating the energy, you're redirecting it, redefining it, allowing it to serve you instead of hindering you. You transmute lead into gold, metaphorically speaking.
Okay, this is all making more sense, but let's circle back to desire. If we are fundamentally already fulfilled, what do we do with those very real desires we have? You know, wanting a better job, a loving relationship, financial freedom, a healthier body. Are they signs we've failed to grasp the already fulfilled part, or should we just ignore them? How do we hold both?
That's a really practical and important question. And the reframe offered here is, again, quite radical and liberating. Far from being a sign of lack or failure, our sources assert that desire itself is a form of prayer. Even more, it's a recognition that you already have what you desire.
A recognition. How can wanting something be a recognition of having it?
Because, as we touched on, the desire only arises because the potential fulfillment already exists within the field of your consciousness. The desire is the signal alerting you to an aspect of your inherent abundance that you're now becoming aware of and are invited to embody.
So it's like a notification popping up. This reality is available for you.
Kind of, yeah. It means desire indicates that you are fulfilled in potential, and the desire is the bridge to experiencing it consciously. This completely shifts the feeling around desire. It moves from a place of needing, grasping, lacking, into a state of gratitude and knowing, almost like saying, thank you for showing me this aspect of my fulfillment that I can now step into.
That is a world away from how most of us experience desire as proof of what's missing.
It really is. Society conditions us to see desire as lack, which fuels that constant cycle of chasing and acquiring. This flips the script entirely. There's a powerful statement in the materials. If you live in desire, meaning you dwell on the wanting, the not having, it's like you're eating worms in imagination. You're consuming yourself with the feeling of lack.
Grr. Okay. Eating worms. Got it.
But if you live in fulfillment, meaning you cultivate the inner feeling of already having it, you dwell in the state of the wish fulfilled, then you are operating like a god from a place of creative power, not lack.
So desire isn't the enemy, it's a pointer. The key is where you place your focus on the wanting or on the having internally.
Precisely. Don't suppress the desire, but reinterpret it. See it as an invitation to align with a state of fulfillment that is already yours in potential, already part of your true nature.
Okay. So we cultivate this inner state of fulfillment, this recognition. How does that actually translate into seeing the car in the driveway or meeting the partner or getting the job? This is where imagination comes in, right? As the bridge.
Exactly. Imagination is presented not just as fantasy, but as the very engine of creation. The sources state unequivocally, imagination is the cause of all experiences, and imagination creates reality.
Imagination creates reality, not just reflects it or dreams about it.
Creates it. But the purpose here isn't just daydreaming in order to get something like a transaction. The real work, the real magic, is to use your imagination to fully experience the desire fulfilled internally, now.
To feel it real now.
Yes. When you truly assume that state in your imagination, when you feel the relief, the joy, the gratitude, the naturalness of already having or being what you desire, the outer world, the sources insist, must eventually conform to that inner state.
Why must it conform?
Because your dominant inner state, your I amness, is the creative power. The outer world is seen as a mirror, reflecting back to you the state you predominantly occupy within. It's not about manipulating the outside. It's about aligning your inner being with the desired reality. You consciously direct the creative power through your feeling state.
This requires some serious faith, though, especially if your current 3D reality looks nothing like what you're imagining. You have to hold that inner vision regardless of outer appearances.
Absolutely unwavering faith. That's crucial. A core principle highlighted is a presumption, even if false to the outer senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact.
Persisted in.
Yeah.
So consistency is key.
Yes. You have to consciously choose to believe in the unseen reality within you and remain loyal to that feeling, that state, no matter what the world seems to be showing you momentarily. The materials often cite examples like the famous ladder experiment Neville Goddard taught, or visualizing a simple object like a rubber duck and then having it unexpectedly appear. These demonstrate the principle on a smaller scale.
And it works for others too. You can use imagination for someone else's well-being.
Yes, the principle holds. You imagine them as they desire to be, feeling the reality of their success or health or happiness for them. It's about seeing their fulfilled state. These examples all point to the incredible power of focused, feeling-toned imagination to influence and shape reality.
So it's less about trying to manifest and more about becoming the person internally who already has it.
Exactly. You become it in imagination first. The inner man experiences the fulfillment, and the outer world then rearranges itself to match.
Okay, so we assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. We live from that end state internally. Then what? Do we just kick back and wait for the delivery truck? Or is there some kind of unfolding?
It's definitely not passive waiting in the sense of just doing nothing externally and expecting things to fall in your lap. It's more about trusting the process that gets initiated by your inner shift. The sources explain that once you successfully establish and persist in that inner state of fulfillment, a bridge of incidents will appear in your world.
A bridge of incidents.
Yeah. It means you'll find yourself moving through a series of seemingly natural events, encounters, ideas, opportunities, things that seem maybe coincidental or unplanned, but they logically lead you step by step towards the physical realization of your imagined state.
So the how takes care of itself through this bridge.
Precisely. It's an organic, often surprising unfolding. Events just align. People show up. The right information appears. All orchestrated by that deeper intelligence, that larger self, responding to your sustained inner state. You don't have to consciously plot out the how.
And the crucial thing, I guess, is not to freak out or get anxious during this unfolding, not to try and control the bridge.
Absolutely critical. The warning is clear. Do not be anxious or worried about the results. Because remember, the outer world reflects the inner. Anxiety injects anxiety into the process. Worry projects more reasons to worry. You have to maintain the feeling of the wish already fulfilled, even as the bridge is being built.
Trust the bridge. Trust the process.
Exactly. It reminds me of that Steve Jobs quote about how you can only connect the dots looking backward. You don't always see the logic of the steps while you're taking them. You don't need to know the entire how in advance.
The path reveals itself.
Yes. In retrospect, you'll see how perfectly everything connected. So the main focus remains on being the person who already has the desire fulfilled, not trying to get it. Because trying implies lack, creates resistance.
The outer man has to surrender control to the inner man's knowing.
That's the essence of it. Let go of the need to consciously manage every step. Trust the inner state and the bridge it creates.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly powerful, maybe even life-changing if truly applied, but let's bring it right down to earth. How does all of this, the non-doing, the inner fulfillment, the imagination, translate into just everyday life? Our daily routines, our interactions, what does it actually look and feel like to live this way?
That's where it gets really exciting, because it's not just about manifesting specific things. It's about transforming your entire experience of life into one of flow and harmony. Our materials explain that this state of flow is the natural outcome of simply being who you are completely fulfilled. It's not something you force. It's what happens when you remove the interference.
The flow restrictor we talked about.
Exactly. When that's released, when you're operating from your true self, there's no inner conflict, no resistance, and everything seems to be in harmony. Life just unfolds with a sense of ease, grace, synchronicity.
So it's not just a feeling inside, it actually shows up outside.
Definitely. It translates into very tangible experiences. Things like opportunities appear, seemingly out of nowhere. Relationships align in harmony. Conflicts tend to dissolve or simply don't arise as much. It's described as experiencing unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, and fulfillment. Not just as inner states, but manifesting more and more practically, in form, with an increased and continuous frequency.
So life becomes less of a struggle and more of a dance.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Less pushing the river, more flowing with it. Do you have some specific examples from the materials, things listeners might recognize. Yeah, there are several. Think about times when maybe you took a spontaneous trip and it led to a perfect, unexpected client meeting. Or trying a completely unconventional approach in your business that just worked, defying all logic.
Yeah, serendipity, synchronicity.
Exactly. Or maybe just experiencing moments of profound clarity or inspiration that seem to come out of nowhere, often when you've stopped trying so hard when you were doing nothing, and that sense of releasing effort. There's also a great example comparing adult learning to how kids learn something like snowboarding.
Ah, yes, you mentioned that earlier.
Kids often just dive in. They intuitively know how to learn rapidly. They fall, laugh, get back up. They're not overthinking the physics or obsessing over the right technique from lesson one. They trust the process, trust their bodies, trust gravity.
Whereas adults often want the manual, the step-by-step instructions, the guarantee they won't fall.
Right. We get bogged down in concepts and analysis, often driven by fear of failure. The kids just do it, naturally. It highlights how our creative mechanism, our intuition, is inherently trustworthy. We just need to stop blocking it with worry, overthinking, and excessive conscious effort. We need to trust the flow like they do.
Ride the wave, trust your feet, let the mountain teach you. That's a powerful lesson for life, not just snowboarding.
Absolutely. It's about trusting that innate knowing and allowing ourselves to be supported by the natural laws, whether physical or metaphysical.
Okay, that makes sense for skills or projects. But what about relationships? They're often the trickiest area, full of conflict, effort, trying to manage other people. How does doing nothing apply there? Seems risky.
It seems risky from the old man perspective, the one that thinks he needs to control everything. But from the perspective of the true self, it's the most natural thing. The key, according to the sources, is abandoning previous conversations. Meaning you let go of all your stored-up judgments, assumptions, past grievances, limiting beliefs, and mental narratives about the other person. You stop projecting your old stuff onto them. You allow them to just be right now without the filter of the past or your expectations.
That requires dropping a lot of baggage.
A lot. But when you do that, when you meet them from a place of inner fulfillment and allowance, relationships naturally flow. Conflict tends to diminish because you're not contributing your side of the unconscious drama. And something else happens. People become drawn to you. You become, in a sense, magnetic.
Magnetic?
Not through manipulation or trying to be charming. It's a natural consequence of your inner state. When you're radiating that sense of wholeness, peace, and non-judgment, people unconsciously sense it. You do nothing to be attractive. You do nothing to be charismatic. You simply are that inherent perfection, love, and harmony we talked about. And that state is naturally attractive. It resonates.
It's like your authentic presence gives others permission to be authentic too. It reminds them of their own true nature.
That's exactly the idea proposed. Your presence reminds others of who they are, for ultimately, there is no other. We're all expressions of the same consciousness.
Wow, there is no other. That's deep.
It is. And living from that understanding leads to more effortless encounters, spontaneous connections, mutually harmonious relationships, both personally and in business. You stop judging people based on superficial things, their appearance, their lifestyle, their beliefs. You allow yourself to be authentic, and you extend that same acceptance to others. Harmony within naturally attracts and creates harmony without. No forcing needed.
So it's really an ongoing journey, isn't it? This isn't a one-time fix, like flipping a switch. It's a process of purification, of embodiment.
Precisely. It's described as a flow-based journey to actualize vision, rather than a stress or force-based one. It's organic. The purification of the mind, the releasing of those limiting conditions happens gradually. You might release one layer of belief, experience more flow, then another layer reveals itself. It's an unfolding.
And the benefits are practical, tangible.
Absolutely. You start doing the things you want to do with less resistance. You find yourself navigating life with more ease. Your sense of self transforms. It's a journey that leads you to eventually realize, as one source beautifully puts it, everything I was doing, all the striving, the effort, was an attempt to be who I already am.
All that effort was just trying to get back to the starting point, the inherent state.
Exactly. And then comes the realization. I knew that inevitably I would arrive at that point where everything would spontaneously happen, and then there would be no need to do this or that. It would simply spontaneously happen.
And here we are sharing this. That's a beautiful culmination. It suggests the struggle itself was part of the illusion.
It's a journey of remembering, of returning to our natural state of being, where manifestation is effortless because it's simply an expression of who we truly are. #conclusion.
Well, what a journey we've taken today. We've really dived deep into this a seemingly paradoxical but ultimately revolutionary approach to fulfillment, to manifestation. The big takeaway for me is that true power, real creative power, isn't found in constantly pushing, striving, doing more. It's found in aligning with who we truly are, our authentic self. That inner state of completion, of fulfillment, apparently already here right now. It's a massive paradigm shift, isn't it? From trying to control everything to allowing flow, from focusing on lack to recognizing inherent abundance, from effort to ease.
It really is. And when you truly start to grasp who you are at that deeper level as pure consciousness, inherently perfect, already whole, already embodying love, happiness, peace, bliss, it naturally raises that critical question. How can you accept limitation as true when you know it is clearly not true? When you see it's just a condition, an overlay?
The limitation loses its power when you see it's not fundamental.
Exactly. That realization itself starts to dissolve those conditions, those illusions imposed on consciousness. It allows reality, your experience reality, to unfold in its natural, perfect harmony. We don't have to wage war on limiting thoughts. We just need to stop believing they define us. Stop identifying with them. See them as clouds passing, not the sky itself.
It's like letting the sunlight of your true self naturally burn away the fog of illusion.
Beautifully said. It's an invitation to surrender, to trust.
hmm
A fundamental shift in identity, really, at the deepest possible level.
It asks us to be vulnerable enough to admit that the outer man, the part of us that's always striving and controlling, actually doesn't know best.
Yeah.
And to hand over the reins, so to speak, to the inner man, the true self that already lives in fulfillment.
So perhaps the final thought to leave you with, our listener, as you go about your week, is this.
Yeah.
What would it genuinely mean for you right now to completely let go of that need to control everything? To just allow yourself to be carried by the perfect reality that, according to these teachings, you already are?
What would truly shift in your day-to-day life if you dared to believe wholeheartedly that everything is already perfect, that you are already fulfilled inherently without needing to achieve one more thing?
Maybe reflect on those moments you've had of spontaneous bliss for no reason. We've all had them, right? Those fleeting moments of pure joy or peace that just arrive unbidden.
Yeah, those moments feel like grace.
Those are glimpses of your true nature shining through the clouds. You don't need to chase them or manufacture them. Just recognize them when they happen. Acknowledge them.
Allow them, trust them, embrace this understanding, maybe experiment with it gently, and just see how it starts to subtly guide your life. Thank you for joining us for this exploration. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive.